In this video, we're going to work on search contacts functionality because we already implemented view contacts, add contacts, delete contacts, and update contacts. So now we just need the final functionality, which is to search contacts because we may have lots of contacts and it would be nice to be able to search and find the contacts that we're looking for. Right, so for that, let's go into the contacts page. Right, so contacts page. Right now you can see that we have a grid, and then inside the grid we have a list view and a button. Right, so a search bar should be put on the top. Right, so we can have a search bar here, and in .NET MAUI there is actually a search bar already. You can already see it right here. Right, so in order to display the search bar, we have to change our grid so that instead of having 2 rows, now we need 3 rows. So we can put like 50, right? So the first row is for the search bar, which the height of that is about 50. And then the second one is going to be as big as it can get to. And then the last one is where the add contact button is located. So that one also has 50. Right, so we can do that, and then we need to change. Actually, let's copy these 2 properties here, or attributes, and then put it inside here on the search bar. That would be good. And then we need to change the row for the list view, and as well as the row for the button, which is number 2. Okay, now we should be able to display the search bar. And we need to let the user know that this is actually a search bar. For that, the placeholder attribute is the best attribute to use. And we can say something like search contact, right? So the user know that this bar is for searching contacts. And in order to react to the search, there are a couple of events we can take advantage of. One of them is TextChanged, right? So this event, so let's actually have this one, as well as there is a search button pressed. So there are 2 events that can be used. Right, I would prefer to use the TextChanged because the TextChanged event is triggered whenever you actually type anything. Right, so this is different from for example, a web application where you try to trigger a text change. So the text is only changed when the cursor leaves the input box. Right here, while you're typing, the event is actually triggered. Whereas the search button pressed usually is going to show, for example, a magnifying glass in the search bar, and then when you press on that or tap on that magnifying glass, then this event is triggered. So I don't like it because it's not very intuitive. So let's actually delete this one. Okay, and then let's go back to the front end and also delete this one. But if that's your requirement that you have to press on the magnifying glass, then yeah, you can feel free to use that. But for us, we're going to use the TextChanged event. And then in the TextChanged event, so let's go back to the code behind, we will have to use the context repository, right? This is a temporary repository that we're using to load in-memory data, right? So we can use contact repository, but we don't actually have a search functionality yet, right? We don't have that yet, but we don't have it, but we can code it here. So what needs to be inside the search contact functionality, actually let's call it search contacts. So this has to be whatever that is the user typed in the search bar. Right? For that, we can get it from the sender, because the sender is actually the search bar. So we can say search bar sender. So this is casting the sender to the search bar, and then the text is what the user entered. So this is good enough, and this should return us the list of contacts, right? So we will have the contacts here, and then look at the load contacts, right? So we have this contacts here, but then this contacts is different. So we will need to use the observable collection, and then we can wrap around like this, So then this context is a observable context, right? And then we can just copy this line and put it over here, and that's it. That's it. And the rest of the work is just to implement the search context method or actually function. Okay, so let's copy the search context and go to the contact repository, go down to the bottom, and then we're going to create another public static function, which is going to return a list of contacts, and that would be similar to this one, right? So it's going to be list of contact, and then here we're going to call it search contacts, and this is basically filter text. You can call it whatever, and then here inside the contacts, we can just basically say where X name starts with filter text, and then we can say string comparison ordinal ignore case. Right? So we want to ignore case. I want it to we want it to be case insensitive, right? And this is going to return us a IEnumerable. And we can cast it into a list like that. So we can do toList contacts. So here we're only looking at the name, but we actually should enable the user to search by anything, right? The name, phone number, address, or email address. So we actually need to let's actually copy and paste this line, and then we can test the other 3 fields here. So what we need to say here is that if the contacts, sorry, not contact, but contacts, if it's not null, and also if contacts.count is actually if it's null, or contacts.count less or equal to 0, that means we didn't find anything. So in this case, we'll have to find we'll have to look for the filter text in some other fields, right? So let's say the second one we're looking at is email, right? And if otherwise, if we did find something from the first query, then we just return, right? And we are going to do the same thing over and over again for another 2 times, right? So here we are going to say this is a phone number maybe, okay? And last but not least, we're looking at address. So we can see that if we ever run to this line, then the result is not returned. So therefore, we will have to, at the end, return the contacts just like this. And this contacts at the end can be an empty list. Another thing we need to pay attention to is that one of these ones can be null, right? Name, email, phone number, or addresses can be null. So in order to solve that problem, we actually have to add some condition over here. Otherwise, it's going to throw like object reference, like null reference problem. We can use a condition over here to say is null or empty or white space. Okay, so the X name here has to be not empty, and it has to start with the filter text. Okay, and then we're going to apply the same condition to the other ones. I'm going to put over here. Of course, this has to be changed to email, and this is phone number, and this one is address. Okay, so the condition is it's not null or empty, and it starts with the context, the filter text. Then that satisfies the criteria, and we'll get our contact back, the correct context back. Here, where we have our search text changed, search bar text changed, and you can see that the problem is gone, and we should be able to just use this. So let's run our application and see whether it works or not. Okay, so now we can see our search contacts bar is right here. So let's type in the first character, J. Actually, let's put a breakpoint over here and just make sure that the event is actually triggered while we're typing. Right, so I'm gonna use the soft keyboard, like the virtual one. So I'm putting J here, and you can see this immediately trigger. Right, it doesn't actually need the cursor to actually leave. But you may thinking that I press here so the cursor actually left. Well, it's actually not the case. So so actually let's continue. So I'm gonna press on F5. So let's continue. Right, let's actually delete this. Right, basically clear the box, and you can see it's also triggered right away. Right, and then now it's cleared. So instead of using the soft keyboard, I'm just going to type the letter J right inside, like with my keyboard. So I tap J, and now you can see that the breakpoint is triggered. That just proves that the TextChanged event is not triggered when the cursor leaves the search bar. Right, so I press on F5, so continue. Right, so I typed in JA, now I can see Jane Doe. So the search actually works, right? And then I can type in Jane, tap on Jane Doe, and go to see the details of Jane Doe. Right, go cancel button, takes us back to here. Unfortunately, the search bar didn't actually clear, and everything is still showing. Right, so for that purpose, what we can do is that on appearing here, we can do some house cleaning here. We can say that search bar, actually we didn't give it a name yet. Did we? Go back to contact. So let's stop this and go back to contacts. We didn't give it a name yet. So we can say name equals, just call it search bar. Okay. So here we can say search bar dot text equals string dot empty. Okay. So with this change, let's give it a test again. All right, so now let's go to, I should go to myself, Frank, and then click on my contact and click on cancel button. Now you can see that the search bar is cleared. Okay, so that's the functionality I want to cover today. I'll see you in the next one.